Billy Collins at Garrison Keillor's bookstore. Garrison Keillor is famous for having a prairie home companion. My uncle, Joe, has decided that the way to keep his niece most jubilant, to really see her smile on a Sunday, is to take her out to brunch and then to take her out to a cool bookstore somewhere in Minneapolis or St. Paul. And so we have been making the rounds to different bookstores. And one poet who makes me more jubilant than I think any other is Billy Collins, who is good friends with Garrison Keillor. And I found this signed edition in the bookstore. And when I picked it up and started reading it, I started giggling. And then my uncle had to know what was going on. And I shared it with him, and he decided he needed to purchase one, which led to a discussion on poetry this past weekend, and how we read poetry so much differently than we read a book. He was surprised that he couldn't just read the book from beginning to end, that it was just a few pages at a time. And so as I share this with you, I'll be reading it to try and help create those images. Thank you notes. Under the vigilant eye of my mother, I had to demonstrate my best penmanship by thanking Uncle Jerry for the toy soldiers, little red members of the Coldstream Guards, and thanking Aunt Helen for the pistol and holster. But now I'm writing other notes, alone at a small cherry desk with breeze coming in an open window. Thanking everyone I happened to see on my long walk to the post office today, and anyone who ever gave me directions, or placed a hand on my shoulder, or cut my hair, or fixed my car. And while I am at it, thanks to everyone who happened to die on the same day that I was born. Thank you for stepping aside to make room for me, for giving up your seat, for getting out of the way, to be blunt. I waited almost until midnight on that day in March before I appeared, all slimy and squinting, in order to leave time for enough of the living to drive off a bridge or collapse in a hallway so that I could enter without causing a stir. So I am writing now to thank everyone who drifted off that day like smoke from a row of blown-out candles, for giving up your only flame. One day, I will follow your example and step politely out of the path of an oncoming infant, but not right now. With the subtropical sun warming this page and the wind stirring the fronds of the palmettos, and me about to begin another note on my very best stationery, to the ones who are making room today, for the daily host of babies descending like bees with their wings and stingers, ready to get busy with all the earthly joys and tasks. Now the poem that I was really giggling about in the store, Horoscopes for the Dead. Every morning since you disappeared for good, I read about you in the daily paper, along with the box scores, the weather, and all the bad news. Some days I am reminded that today will not be a wildly romantic time for you, nor will you be challenged by educational goals, nor will you need to be circumspect at the workplace. Another day I learned that you should not miss an opportunity to travel and make new friends, though you never cared much about either. I can't imagine you ever facing a problem with a positive attitude, but you will definitely not be doing that today, or anything like that on this weekday in March. And the same goes for the fun you might have gotten from group activities, a likelihood attributed to everyone under your sign. A dramatic rise in income may be a reason to treat yourself, but that would apply more to all the Pisces who are still alive, still swimming up and down the stream of life, or suspended in a pool in the shade of an overhanging tree. But you will be relieved to learn that you no longer need to reflect carefully before acting, nor do you have to think more of others. And never again will creative work take a backseat to the business responsibilities that you never really had. And don't worry today or any day about problems caused by your unwillingness to interact rationally with your many associates. No more goals for you, no more romance, no more money or children. Jobs are important tasks. But then again, you were never thus encumbered. So leave it up to me now to plan carefully for success and the wealth it may bring, to value the dear ones close to my heart, and to welcome any intellectual stimulation that comes my way. Though, that sounds like a lot to get done on a Tuesday. I am better off closing the newspaper, putting on the clothes I wore yesterday, when I read that your financial prospects were looking up. Then pushing off on my copper-colored bicycle and pedaling along the shore by the bay. And you stay just as you are, lying there in your beautiful blue suit, your hands crossed on your chest, like the wings of a bird who has flown in its strange migration, not north or south, but straight up from Earth, and pierced the enormous circle of the zodiac. Madam Toastmaster.
Ask the timer for 2 minutes. 2 minutes, please.
So they can also come for snacks.
Oh, that's next. And now with our second speaker. Our second speaker today is Amit. Amit is speaking from the, he's doing an entertaining speech from the Competent Communicator Manual. The title of his speech is How Not to Advance in Life, and he asks for 6 to 8 minutes. Thank you.
We just heard Melissa deliver a poem which shows that when you're dead, you can be jubilant. You can do a lot of stuff which you can't do in life. But for those of us who are alive and have to go about doing our life, things are a bit complicated. It so happens that I work in very exciting times and very exciting place. I met the CEOs, our CEOs, John Noseworthy's executive coach. Looks like all the CEOs these days have executive coach who tell them what they do right and what they don't do right. Now these coaches are very specific, and I'm going to talk about this one specific coach. They don't teach you how to improve your skill or how to have more knowledge, because they start working with people like you and I who have knowledge, who have skill. So if you don't have knowledge and skill, you have to go to a college or attend a course. They work on behaviors, which seem to be so destructive that despite all the knowledge and skill that we possess, we find out ways how not to succeed in life. So Madam Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, I'm going to introduce you to this magical book written by Marshall Goldsmith. It's called What Got You Here Won't Get You There. So actually Marshall was here speaking in Phillips Hall a couple of weeks ago. And he talked about the 20 habits which I have given you a handout. And I'm going to discuss only about 3 of them. The number 1 destructive habit is winning too much. Very often what happens is you're challenged in your college courses and every other places to win. If you're a manager, you've got to go and get your contract. You've got to make that case. So much so that we become ridiculous. We start working on things and trying to win things which are not important at all. I'll give you an example. I'm having a discussion with my wife as to which restaurant. Not in Rochester, we have enough choices right here, but somewhere else in Boston to eat. She says, let's go to this place and eat. I do the research in my internet and see that that restaurant has got some bad ratings. And I tell her, well, that restaurant is not very good. I'm already competing with her. She says, no, let's go. So she takes me to that restaurant. I sit there. A waiter takes 15 minutes to get to us. The food is not that good. And I have to prove a point. I was right. I go back home and remind her, listen, I was right. Winning too much. How to deal with this is shut up. Enjoy the food. Enjoy the company of your wife. Much more important than that ridiculous food. And the waiter. Waiter may be good. The hotel is not. So winning too much. So I'm going, Boston, I was going, Minneapolis airport. How ridiculous can a grown-up man like me can be? So here's a conveyor belt going. It says walk and stand. My daughter and my wife are walking the normal path. And I'm saying, let's see who can go first. And I'm going in the conveyor belt. like an idiot, I go in the front and I'm watching my wife and my daughter look at the other side, that man, he's not related to us. Winning at every cost. Problem number one. Problem number two is speaking when you're angry. Big problem. People might irritate you, but if you speak when you're angry, you've lost it. He gives an example of this Buddhist, it's a Buddhist story, that this villager is going upstream, is kind of on a boat and is going upstream to deliver some food. And it's late, the sun is getting down and he wants to go fast. As he's going upstream, rowing and is sweating, he sees a boat coming from the other end, directly towards him. He keeps yelling out, "Get out of my way, get out of my way!" Nobody seems to listen. The boat is coming. Bam! Boat hits. Guy rolls down. Here goes the tomatoes, here goes the potatoes, all down. He swims up, looks up and says, "Idiot! Can't you see? Are you blind?" And there is no one. The boat was empty. It was a boat which broke out somewhere, got loose, and kept floating around. So when you're angry, you're shouting at yourself. That's what the Buddhists say. There's nobody to blame but yourself. Getting angry. The third thing which he mentioned is negativity. It cannot be done. Because we are so smart, we have so many skills, and we have knowledge, we know all these things. Somebody comes with a plan who is junior to us, comes with a great plan. We listen to it and says, "You know, have you met any of these people at work?" I'm one of them. "You know, I know what you're saying, but I've tried that. But you know, there are few reasons it may not work in Mayo. These are some of the reasons." When you do that, you have completely destroyed your team. That person is never ever going to come with you with another issue. And number two, they've come up with an idea, and you told them that you already know the idea, know what they're going to say. And they've taken all the credit, so the person goes back disappointed. So point by point, he's given 20 such habits. If you have time, kindly read that book. What to do about it? As you go up, he says, be neutral. You might know it, you might know, until as the person is completely wrong, they've come up with the idea, you know the story, you've heard it so many times, say neutral. Don't say, I know about it. There's nothing new about this topic. I've already heard about it. Say thank you. Stay quiet and just say thank you. Thank you. And go ahead with your life. You might win more friends that way rather than coming up with a suggestion. The other thing is that taking a great feedback from your friends. Don't ask how am I doing today or what do you feel about me. Ask your friend, is there some behavior I can change? And they will tell you. They see you, they love you, they will tell you because everybody wants you to succeed. Because if you say, how am I doing today? Nobody would say anything. Because when was pointing out faults of somebody was a great career move for their subordinate? Nobody will tell you that. Apologizing, a lot. So thinking about your thinking. So I'll end with a quote which Gandhi said, Mahatma Gandhi. Speak only if it improves on silence. So there was a lot of things which I learned. Most important thing which I learned was some of these habits which we are taught in this rat race of life may take us to a level, but then our careers will stall if we are not careful about our behavior and make some changes. So I would strongly advise you to read that book. It might help you as it's helped me. And those
I'd like to have 2 minutes, please, for evaluation.
not too hard. So today we're celebrating quite an accomplishment, the President's Distinguished Award, which pretty much means that we're an awesome club. And that's something to be happy about. I would like to hear from someone, Elizabeth, on an accomplishment that you're particularly proud of in your life, or maybe a goal that you have in the future that you would like to accomplish. Please welcome them.
Thank you. Good afternoon, fellow Toastmasters. The question is, do I have something that I'm very proud of that I have accomplished in my life? I'm not quite sure, but I thought that question was asked of me some time ago. But I'm not going to keep this. Beyond what I have considered I have achieved in life, I want to do something else that I haven't done in my life. And perhaps that is driving again in a highway. That would be a great accomplishment. I had great accomplishments in my life before, and I lost one. And that was driving in traffic. It terrorizes me. I feel like oncoming traffic is coming up to me, and the road is closing, and cars are veering, and they're gonna hit me. Even sometimes I'm driving and there's this crane that is just sitting there, and suddenly I feel like it's coming onto me. So you don't want to be driving where I'm driving. So that would be probably the one accomplishment that I want to achieve sometime soon. Even for that matter, I have considered going to driver's ed. Would you imagine that? I even signed up for driver's ed one year, and it happened that we had a big snow, so I canceled. I got out of it. I was thinking maybe I can try hypnosis or something else, but I'm not quite sure how would that work. In some great accomplishments in the past, the one that I think I talked last time, it was about having my son when I was a single mom. But looking forward, the greatest accomplishment I want to reach is getting to drive again because I got the red light.
Thank you, Elizabeth. I can relate to that. I've got highway issues as well. It feels like cars are just coming up.
Yes.
If you're driving down the street, it feels like someone wants to merge into your lane, even though they just swerve just a little bit. So I can understand that. Now, in terms of thinking about a goal that you might have, I would like to hear from John, if you have any tips on how you make your goals more achievable. What helps you achieve the goal that you want, or what makes it harder for you to achieve your goals?
How do I achieve goals, or what is a goal that I go for? My college degree was in construction management, which involves estimating, planning, scheduling of skyscrapers, and all that type of thing. So one final project that we had for a class in college was, here's a 20-story building. Your final is to have a complete plan of how you're going to put this together. Was able to work with one other person. So during finals week, we spent over 40 hours each on doing it. The butcher block, or the butcher paper, was 20 feet plus long with like 5 to 10 layers going all the way across, and we didn't finish. But telling you that story is, you have to break it apart. What are the little pieces? What are the easy things that you can knock off? What can you accomplish? What do you, stumbling here. What are the different steps? One of the goals I'm working on now is my kids are gonna be gone this fall, and it's just gonna be my wife and I for the first time in 20+ years, so I'm jubilant. And it's a new home, new home. And then got my red, yellow light. Thank you.
Speaking of celebration, today is a celebration and you're gonna be celebrating having your house back to yourself again. Everybody loves a jubilant celebration. I would like to hear from Chris on a memorable celebration you may have had. A birthday, a wedding, making the best bread you've ever made. Anything that you really enjoyed about the celebration.
Celebration. Probably. Has to do, of course, with cooking. I love to cook and create. I'm a person that gets great satisfaction when I see other people are enjoying themselves, and I had a big part in facilitating that. Example of that would be after I had taken my pizza oven course and told my parents that they were hosting a 4th of July party, a 4th of July pizza party with wood-fired pizzas. And I learned that there was a very big difference between going to a class and watching it then, and then switching around and then doing that for another group of people. But it was a very successful exercise, because at the end of that day, everybody was commenting that they had not done anything like that before. Everything was wonderful. My dad asked me if he could hire me to cater his card club party later, about 3 weeks later. And I had a wonderful repeat of 20-some people saying that they too fully enjoyed themselves. And I heard months later that they still talk about it. So being a facilitator of celebrations and having them succeed is one of my favorite celebrations.
Switching gears a little bit, I don't know if you've noticed, but I think it's officially springtime. I was in a meeting yesterday and we went around and introduced ourselves and we had to say something that we liked about spring. And I wanted to say something positive, but I was thinking about the flowers I had planted last weekend, and 2 days later, yesterday morning, I got up and they had already been eaten by the deer. So I like spring and I really like the flowers, but the deer are really hard to deal with when you live in the woods. But springtime is still a very beautiful time of year. And I would like to hear from Joe on what his favorite thing about springtime is.
Thank you for the invitation. I think I would be more intrigued by the first question that you asked, because I'm struggling with something right now where there are some pluses, but there's some minuses too. Most of you know I collect books. In fact, I have about 4,000 books in my 2-bedroom apartment. There's not much room even for me in it. So the whole idea of getting it straightened has been something I've thought about. And I've come across a book by a Japanese author, Marie Kondo, who talks about how to learn how to straighten up your room. she claims that the reason why we have a mess everywhere is that we have never learned how to make it straight. And in fact, I actually was so fascinated with the book that I gave a lecture on it. I gave a talk to Charterhouse on how to straighten up your room. Naturally, everybody asked me if I had done that myself. And the answer is no, I'm going to do it along with you. So my positive achievement is that I read the book and gave a talk on it. And my negative achievement is that I haven't done a thing yet to help.
A couple of days ago, I was walking to my car after work, and I spotted a hipster walking. I'm sure many of us know who these hipsters are, and there are not too many of us in the room. And he was wearing tight-rolled jeans. I don't know how many remember tight rolling in the 80s. If you were living in the 80s, kind of wrap your pants around and roll them up really tight. It was a fad in the 80s that was really kind of annoying, I think. And anyway, it made me wonder, fashion always comes back. You just kind of cycle around it. I would like to hear from Amy. What fashion fads would you not like to see come back, or would you like to see come back, or what are your thoughts on fashion fads and what you foresee in the future?
Being the fashionista that I am, you all can tell from my jeans and t-shirt today, I really have no idea what the future holds by way of fashion, although history does repeat itself. And I will demonstrate to you today how to roll your pants. And I've got my white tennies, which are a little bit retro to the early 80s as well. So watch me closely. You take a wide leg pant, like so, at the seam, and you make a little triangle. I'm going to hold my leg up, but I would fall over. So you make a little triangle just to narrow it out at the ankle, and then you progress up by just rolling it nice and tight, like so.
Wow.
While I'm not a hipster, I too know how to roll my jeans because of the 80s. Thank you, sir.
That's fantastic. I think we all needed a refresher on that. Make sure you get it symmetric and then wear it like that the rest of the day. You too can be a hipster. All right, I'm going to hand it back to Doug.
Thank you very much. I went to college, well, I was in high school in the 80s, but I don't remember how to do that, so thank you very much. I learned something new today. Now I'd like to, excuse me for speaking, introduce Chris, the general evaluator.
Postmaster. I am going to first call on evaluator number 1, Sarah Fatigue, to evaluate Melissa's speech.
General evaluator, fellow Toastmasters, and especially Melissa. First, I want to start by thanking you for the introduction, because I am not sure who Billy Collins. I've heard Garrison Keillor, but I'm not 100% sure who he was, so that was a nice introduction. And yours was expressing a poem, so it wasn't so much about the eye contact versus how you interpret it, but I thought you had very good eye contact. Were you able to express the thoughts in the poem? I thought you were very jubilant and thankful, which fits the poem that you read. You did understand the poem by the way you interpreted and expressed during the reading. Did you use effective pauses? You did really well with pauses when it came to the humorous parts. It allowed the audience to laugh a little bit, have a little fun, and enjoy what you were reading to them. You were very well prepared because you can tell when you were reading through there, you knew when to pause and when to be more expressive in what you were saying. Did the speaker avoid a sing-song rhythm? I'm not 100% sure what they're talking about, but I'm thinking just kind of back and forth, and you did avoid that because you had the vocal variation and pauses in there. How could you improve? It was a little fast at times, and that's just kind of being a little nitpicky because overall it was really, really good. It was very expressive and you interpreted it very well.
Thank you, Sarah. Next for the evaluation number 2, Bev is going to come up and evaluate Amit's speech. Go ahead.
General evaluator, fellow Toastmaster, and his speech today was on how not to advance in life. I think the title itself was very good. It just piqued you wondering, what on earth is he going to talk about? He was looking at the organization of the speech, and I think he did well with that. The value of the speech, it was something that we could all relate to. It was things that, as he was talking about how, can you think of somebody like that? Well, you know, we were probably all thinking, having our own visions of who has these characteristics and stuff. So I think it was something that was very important for all of us. Preparation, very well prepared. His expression, his ability to go without notes, he just went and did very well with that. The organization, I liked the opening, had the nice catchy title, and then he went into the 3 behaviors, and so he went through all of those so that we were very clear on that, and then he went into the 3 areas of what can we do about that. So not only just giving you what the behaviors are, but then how can we work with that. So the body flowed very nicely. I guess the only thing that I can think of, the conclusion dropped a little quicker than I thought. It could have been a little stronger with all the different things that you were talking about there. But that would just be my only suggestion. Otherwise, you transition from one area to the other very well. I think when you look, he gave us a sheet of paper with all the other ones, so now that our interest is peaked, we can go back and look at some of those others, and had the book for us just so that you could visualize what the book was as well. I think, as with anything that Amit, when he evaluates, one of the things we always talk about is to make it concise so that you don't say too much, that it just rambles on. And I think his quote added to that, speak only if it improves your silence. So I think that was a very nice quote to kind of wrap up the whole idea. Otherwise, I think he did very, very well. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bev. I'm going to call on Amy for Dr. Marion's report next. Amy?
Dr. Marion's report, very nice use of the word of the day, jubilant. Most of you got it in, and most of you in a very appropriate way. Sometimes we come up and just say it, just to get the score, but most of you got it in the context of what you were saying, which was fantastic. My favorite use is, of course, John's, when he and his wife will have the home to themselves, and he's going to be jubilant about that. I could very much relate to it. Nice one, John. A couple of connectors I wanted to point out. So, I do that a lot. I heard it frequently today. Also heard both of our evaluators, just keep an eye out for that. Listen for yourself when you say that. You'll catch yourself and find other ways, whether it's through a pause or just not saying anything. It's a filler as we're transitioning. So just keep your own ears attuned to that as you're talking, and find ways that are comfortable for you to transition without having that filler in there. Picture us speak. Certain words that jumped out to me. Melissa, I could re-quote your whole poetry. That was fantastic. One of the words that you said that I really enjoyed was the word giggling. We don't hear that very often, and just the G's and the word giggling. kind of bring about that silliness that makes it just a fun word. Amit, ridiculous and like an idiot. I love those words, they jumped out to me. A couple of other things that you said, tomatoes and potatoes, I don't know if you meant to rhyme, but that stuck out, potatoes and tomatoes. Again, your quote, speak only if it improves on silence. Very nice. Spotted a hipster. You too can be a hipster. Jumped out to me. Joe, when you said it's a mess everywhere, that caught my attention. And also when you said straighten up your room, because I heard that from my mother frequently when I was growing up. And when you said it, it was not as stern as I've heard in the past, but it definitely piqued my interest. And Chris, a facilitator of celebrations. Nicely said. Thank you, everyone.
I always need to be aware of where I give the evaluation or comment before or after the grammarian. Because I had meant to say I didn't see as many jubilant taste buds going for the goodies in the back. So retroactively, I think I get credit here. Next, I would like to call the timer down for the report. I'd ask Stacy to come down and give the report.
Thank you, Mr. General Evaluator. My jubilance has waned under the prodigious weight of being a timer. Do you know there's 5 things to be keeping track of? It's a lot of responsibility. Most people, we did really well. We had 2 people that went over and 2 people that went under, but nobody went over or under by a great deal. Mr. General Evaluator.
There also is a small amount of jubilance in being very concise and letting us know exactly what's going on without not improving on the silence. Now is the portion where, as a general evaluator, I would like to give some comments on the meeting as a whole. I would like to comment, I have heard for several meetings now what I would like to call the light blight. Part of Toastmasters is speaking well as well as finishing well. So one thing I would like to put forth to the club members is to not use the light as a cop-out for finishing your speech. We need to just work on not letting our panic show. I have experienced that panic when I see that red light. Do I run the red light or do I slam on my brakes? Or do I just pretend I don't see the red light and coast to a stop as soon as I can? Another thing I want to say is I have a date coming up Friday night, so I thank you for your advice not to compete with my wife regardless of how bad the experience may be. So thank you for that well-timed advice. Your speeches usually contain some bit of advice that will be very, very useful in my very, very near future. And Stacy, to again comment on your timer's report and your presentation, I like the exploration of new ways and new procedures in saying something or presenting something. So your format has been a little off, but I applaud I liked it. I want to say that something different is always good in my mind. I am drawn to the novelty of something. And if you ever, another good book to read would be Amit Sood's The Mayo Guide to Health Stress-Free Living. I've only gotten a few pages in, but already there's lots of great advice. Overall, I think for having a celebration, It would have been wonderful to have guests, but family is always wonderful to celebrate with too. So I'm gonna stop talking, and a little less formality will hopefully ensure that some of those treats get devoured and consumed before we close in 5 minutes. So, Madam Postmaster.
Thank you, everyone, for your participation today. I have to say I learned something from everyone here. It's been a good experience for me, the first time I've been a Toastmaster. So thank you very much, and have a great week.
I have another one.
I'm sorry.
My problem is I start reading at 10 o'clock and then I get the chapter in and I start falling asleep.
Oh, yeah, and I would recommend all of these.
I knew there was something special, and I couldn't remember it, and
Sarah.
Red, yes.
Yes, this is my.
I wrote it down. Yep, I wrote it down.
Tweaking.
Okay, sounds good.
And we cannot